Sleepy? They go hit that water. Pretty neat.
Inside the buildings are a lot of sculptures. That's what they're known for. This one is especially relevant.
So, this is the Artisan Theater. Concerts and plays and ballets here at the Artisan. Often there's a giant movie screen. They show movies out here. 5 bells on my right, they represent the 5 missions of San Antonio. The Alamo is obviously the most famous mission. But if the stage on my right looks familiar, I was told that it was featured in the movie Ms. Congeniality, which I hear is just delightful. And again, this is all part of the original section of the Riverwalk. The planters, the bridges, the sidewalks. This area was built in 1941. Let me tell you what it's made out of. 1929. We'll talk more about the building in front of the boat when we get next to it, but that's a pretty good view. Built in the midst of the stock market crash, the developers launched a fortune trying to complete the Tower Life building. And we're going under the Presa Bridge. Now the Presa Bridge is dangerously low. Please remain seated as we go under Presa Street. Built back in the 1890s, they were shorter back then. Shipped down here from Berlin, Connecticut. And coming up on my right is Marriage Island. Over 300 small wedding ceremonies take place every year on the heart-shaped island. So if you look closely, it's made from the roots of a giant cypress tree. It's actually kidney-shaped, but again, we see weddings here on a daily basis. It is a natural formation. And coming up on my right was the old mill. When you look to my right, the building does not match. The bottom was built back in the 1800s. The rest of the hotel was built in the 1990s. It's all examples of the Conservation Society and the influence they have downtown, trying to protect these buildings. And we're going under Navarro Street. Now we are going to see the same streets over and over, and there's a reason for that. The river is curving through downtown. We will see Navarro Street later in the tour. And we're going over the old crossing. Right now the water is 2 feet deep. Back when they were herding cattle across the state of Texas, this was the center of downtown. Built back in the 1800s, it is still in use today. Red sandstone. And directly in front of the boat, high, or actually on my left, high in the sky, we get a better view of the 8-sided high-rise. Now on my left is a neo-Gothic building, and part of that style. Menacing. Looking at the bottom 6 floors, that was the first Sears and Roebuck. That was the first department store downtown. On my right's the Hilton Homewood Suites back in the 1950s. That was the San Antonio Drug Company. They were a manufacturer. Now a hotel. Again, hopefully you get a good view of those faces.
See the faces. Okay, all in.
And we're going under St. Mary Street.
We did them on the porch. Up underneath the column.
How old is this bridge?
This bridge, I assume, was completed in 1941. Built by the WPA, the Public Works Agency, during the FDR New Deal presidency. Now, in front of the boat is the courthouse, part of Main Plaza. Now, on my right, back when I was a kid, this was the public library. It's now offices and restaurants, but it's also the old marina, so that's where we park the boats. On my left is the Granada Retirement Home. And behind the boat is Tower Light. Behind the boat, we do get a better view of this 8-sided high-rise. Now, during the design process, the Titanic sank in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. If you look very closely, the bottom 6 floors are sticking out like a giant boat. The bottom 6 floors are designed to emulate the front of the Titanic as a tribute to the sunken vessel. I want to my horn. We have a blind turn. I'd like to inform any oncoming traffic. Now, in front of the boat is Floodgate 4. Now, Floodgate 4 lies beneath the water, and it rises up. It's a drawbridge, and it actually closes the opening we're going through. Imagine it rising up from beneath the boat, or the water. Now, when we first got on the boat, it's behind the boat. You can't see it. Behind the boat's a 9-foot drop-off. Now, that's Floodgate 5. And again, during times of heavy rain, it's like a month ago, the gate behind the boat was lowered. Now, once they lowered the gate behind us, all of the excess rainwater rushed out of downtown. And that's what the Riverwalk does, you know. The Riverwalk protects the city from flooding. That's the main purpose. So when you look back, the nachos, the mariachis, the margaritas, the boats, they all came later. They are a byproduct of the system. Now, behind the boat and on my right's Tower Life, and in front. So that just started. There's a little wedding chapel that opened up. Ever since the wedding chapel opened up, more and more locks are found here on the river. Again, they throw the keys. And we're going under Market Street. Now, about 3 or 4 blocks to my left down Market Street, we eventually find the Marketplace. So we call that El Mercado. More shops and restaurants are found in the market. It's also home to Mi Tierra, one of the few restaurants that's open 24 hours downtown. We would pass the San Antonio Museum of Art, and we would pass the Pearl Brewery. Now, we do not brew beer at the Pearl, not on a major scale. Some of the better restaurants in San Antonio reside inside the Pearl, which is less than 2 miles from here. It's north of downtown. The Hilton Company purchased the entire block on my left. This used to be the printing company, used to be the book building. A lot of these structures will remain, but they will build modern structures behind it, shops, restaurants, apartments, and of course a hotel. And let's see, do we have any baby ducks? Yeah, there's a baby duck on my left. This is the time of year we start seeing more and more baby ducks on the Riverwalk. May, June, July. What's that? I believe it's going to be a mixed-use building with both apartments, hotels, and shops. But yeah, in front front of the boat, we see what remains of the Texas River Theater. In 1981, they tore down the theater, but they did save the corner of the building. So when folks go home from the Argo group, they'll be going through the entrance of the old theater. So you can see that kind of stark contrast in front of us. And again, these are all examples of the Conservation Society, the influence they have. This is the city park. It is past my friend Edgar. This public park is larger than Central Park in New York City. It is larger than the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. It's one of the largest public spaces in America. Riverwalk belongs to everyone. One of the safest. I read a review or an article, a study, stating that San Antonio is one of the safest downtowns for any major American U.S. city. The downtown area is a city park. The rest of the river is controlled by the San Antonio River Authority. They're kind of a separate entity that holds dominion over the areas north and south of downtown. And again, the river's 200 miles long, so I can only assume that, away from San Antonio. This bridge survived the flood. Not much predates 21 down here because of this natural disaster. In front of the boat is the Southwest School of Arts. In the 1850s, it was the Ursuline Girls' School. It's the first Christian girls' school in South Texas. And again, we'll flip this boat around. Oh, that is a very small turtle. On my right. Sitting in an airplane hangar adjacent to the airport right now. They run on propane, they're single prop, they're good boats. Now the old owner of the old company, he doesn't want to sell them one at a time. He wants to sell them all at once. Oh, so he was in negotiations, I think with like Matamoros, Mexico, or somewhere in Mexico. He almost had a deal, but they pulled out of the deal. And now he's got all these boats and he doesn't know what to do with them. They painted them up, they look good. I love them. Yeah, I know. I want to take them to Holland. I want to take them to Amsterdam and do an English tour in Amsterdam. Now we're passing, and again, we got a gang of baby ducks on my right.
Look at there.
Small building, so it's now a hotel. And on my right is Rita's. On my right's the Mocara Hotel. Now this was the L. Frank Saddle Company. They used to make saddles here. Now they make tacos. 100 years ago, this was the largest employer in the city. L. Frank, he outfitted Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders. Many of those men were from San Antonio. And we're going under Navarro Street. Like I said, we see the same streets over and over. We're curving through downtown today. And we're under the bridge. You guys can do me a favor. This is actually pretty cool. So again, we are under Navarro Street. And if you look up high in the sky and on my left, we will see an optical illusion. So again, high in the sky, on my left, what appears to be flat, what looks as if it could be a freestanding wall, is actually the corner of the Knicks Hospital. Built in 1930, it is still in use today. On my left is the birthplace of Carol Burnett, Oliver North, and my grandmother. And I think they're now building a bar in the basement. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, it's still in use. Passing these giant cypress trees. They are bald cypress trees. Every winter, they shed their leaves, and every spring they come back. In front of the boat is the Hyatt Regency. Now the Hyatt is across the street from the Alamo, so this is it. This is as close as we get. The Alamo is not on the river. A lot of people expect to see it during the tour. It's open, it's free. not very loud. You might hear a little bit of squeaking above the boat. So those are bats. Bats are still in the area. When the sun goes down, you will find bats whipping through the underpass here around 7:30, 8 o'clock.
That's where we stayed there.
And high in the sky and on my right's the golden dome of the Casino Club building. Art Deco style structure built back in the 1920s. No casinos left in San Antonio today. And above the boat is the Crockett Bridge. Now, obviously, this bridge is named after Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier, hero of the Alamo, senator from Tennessee. And this bridge also survived the flood. And this is River Square. This really has become the heart of the Riverwalk. Restaurants here provide food for dinner boats. Every night we put tables on the boats, drive people around as they eat a meal. We've been doing that for years now. A lot of people on the Riverwalk. Over 12 million people visit the Riverwalk every year. It is the #1 tourist attraction in the state. More people visit the Riverwalk than visit Niagara Falls on an annual basis. You can see it. 68. I think we've heard that here once or twice by now. San Antonio, we hosted the World's Fair that year. Now, the World's Fair was a huge event. And, you know, looking back, it was just a big party. And many of the buildings downtown were built around this time period. So when you look around the river, the tower, the convention center, the Chamber of Commerce, these were all built just in time for the World's Fair. And it's where my parents met. So this is like a big deal. We had 7 million visitors. A lot of the infrastructure around this area built around that time. And we're cruising through the man-made section. Passing another waterfall on my right. Again, got to keep things moving. Also on my right, the Tower of the Americas. On the 4th of July and New Year's Eve, fireworks are shot out of the top of the tower. And there's still a lot going on up there. Observation deck, rotating restaurant, 3D movie theater, and a Starbucks. All at the top of the tower.
How long does it take to get up?
How long does it take to get up? 2 minutes? 90 seconds? Something like that. It's been a while. I was up there a few years ago. They have a really nice restaurant. They have a good bar. They have a good happy hour. Tell them you're going to the restaurant. Tell them you're going to the bar. They let you up there for free. You have access to everything that's going on at the top of the tower.
Like the Seattle Tower, right? The Seattle Tower was built for the fair.
Absolutely. 4 years earlier, 1964, Seattle hosted their World's Fair. So on my right's the tower. Oh wow, look at those guys. It is taller than the Seattle Space Needle. It is second only to the Stratosphere in Las Vegas. It's the second tallest tower in America. Also a work of art on my right. Now the one on my right was inside for 49 years. Last year, they tore down the area on my right, but they did save the work of art. And we'll flip it around. Can someone let him in? So this is the end of the man-made section. At one time, the river kept going. You know, back in the late 60s, the river went past the tower. Over the years, convention center has gotten larger. The area on my right was filled in. Directly in front of the boat, we see the Lila Cockrell Theater. Lila Cockrell, she was the mayor when I was a kid. She was the first female mayor of San Antonio. And again, I know it's a bit noisy, but you can still appreciate the work of art. 1691, a group of missionaries, a group of priests came upon this body of water. June 13th has always been the feast day, the celebration day of San Antonio. A mass was held and the river was then christened. The river was named the San Antonio River. Now the old name for the river, what we used to call the river, was Yana Wana. It was an Indian term. But eventually this area adopted the name San Antonio, and you gotta admit it does sound better than Yana Wana.
Not to do that. There's a mall area in it.
This area is often the centerpiece for our river parades. About once a month, we have parades on the river. That's when we decorate the boats. On St. Patrick's Day, we dye the river green. And the day after Thanksgiving, that's the big one. That's when we turn on the Christmas lights. Last year, we had nearly 1 million Christmas lights on the river. It's very busy in December. You can only assume the next one, actually, I guess, will be for the 4th of July. Got a couple of oranges left. Above the boat's an orange tree. During the tour, we see orange trees, lemon trees, palm trees. So again, this is a public park. Parks and Recs guys, they plant stuff every day.